Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some malicious compliance. Before we start, remember you can get all of the KCC video content on podcast. Just search for Karma Comment Chameleon Podcast on every major podcasting platform. Alright, on to the stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Curious Not Creeper. Okay, I will work my duty time. I will change the names to protect my job. A bit of background, I have worked in public education at site for over 25 years. The supervisor was a new one with a questionable past. I was newly elected union president. The supervisor did not like me, and I think felt threatened by my mere existence, and went after me. Wrong move, Skippy. From the beginning of the educational term, my supervisor and I clashed. They seemed to go out of their way to find something to talk with me about, write me up for, or simply question me about. At first, I chalked it up as trying to figure out what I did and how things ran, but it became obvious that it was going after me and wanting to get me fired. Well, let's just say, as a long-term employee in a public education system with a strong union, I am fairly protected. Add to that, I am the union president of that strong union. Add Kevlar to that protection. That is not to say I could not lose my job, it just needed to be criminal and a felony. I will try to keep the rest of the story short. After multiple petty meetings, conference summaries, and write-ups, I got tired of it. I started to push back and I would not talk even in public spaces to supervisor. They were invisible to me. I did not hear them. I did not talk with them. In fact, I would ask someone to give them a message while I was standing in front of them. Needless to say, this made them frustrated. If they wanted to talk with me, there was always another person from the union in the room with me. On one occasion, aka fishing expositions, my reply was, I will not answer that question without my attorney present. And no, it was not an investigation of criminal nature. Supervisor kept rephrasing the questions, hoping I would slip up or answer. Nope, I am smarter than you. I answered the questions that did not answer supervisor's intended path, but would not answer the questions he wanted to nail me for. This made him so frustrated that he started to threaten my job and reassign me. Nope, Skippy, you cannot do that. He sent me a directive that I was to check in with his assistant each morning, check out for my lunch, and back in, and then check out each day. If the assistant was not present, I was directed to text both supervisor and the assistant if I was away from my desk. I was also instructed to only work my duty time, and I could not work outside my day. Okay, not a problem. Each morning, I would walk past supervisor's office and check in. Every time I had to go to the copier, I would text them both. Every time I used the restroom, I would text them both. Every time I had to talk with someone away from my desk, I texted them. This got fun quickly. If I got called into a meeting by the dean or other higher administration, I told them I was not allowed away from my desk, office, classroom without supervisor's permission, and that they needed to call him to get that permission. Needless to say, I was following the directive to the letter and blowing things up with a smile. This lasted about 2 weeks before the dean and others started to get annoyed by the actions and directive of supervisor. The increased pressure upon supervisor became increased pressure on me. Yep, he was not getting the message and digging his heels in because he's the boss and I was just a subordinate. When I was fed up, I brought in the regional union representative and they started to get very clear with not only supervisor but the president of the educational institution that the next meeting would involve the union attorneys and we would be filing legal action under the state and federal laws in regard to union busting. Big dollars in attorney fees to even start to answer the complaint. By the way, it cost us nothing for our attorneys and filing. Make a long story short, my life got much easier. He was not allowed to talk with me, and he was placed on administrative leave for the remainder of the year, and never returned to educational employment in the area. And for me, life is great, and I am happy to work more hours than I am paid for, and I do not need to text anyone when I have to pee. Winner. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Grayscale42. It says, I was with you until working more hours than you are paid for. I would hope, especially as a union president, that you would correctly log every hour worked, and likewise encourage all of your bargaining unit employees to do the same. Classified employees, support staff, do not get paid well enough compared to certified employees, credentialed teachers, and administrators, and are often only part-time employees. You are setting an example that this is acceptable and potentially blocking union members from the hours and employment benefits they have earned and very much deserve. Another commenter down below called Woke Britain says, what makes you happy to work more hours than you're paid for? As the union president, you should be setting the correct example of refusing to work when you're not being paid. OP responded and said, I am an educator. There is no way that we can get everything done in the duty day. The ultimate consumer are the students. That is one of the reasons why I got annoyed with micromanagement. What I did not add above was the educational institution started to get comments about how classes were being cancelled, and it was in the news. Bad press does not look good. I don't know, OP, it sounds to me like you're still making a pretty bad decision. You are the union rep and you're putting in extra hours when you really don't need to. You doing that sets a really bad example. You are the union rep, and people are looking towards you to understand what the union wants from them. If you're putting in extra hours, they may be worried that they have to put in extra hours themselves and not realize that they only need to work the hours that they're scheduled for. This story comes to us from Shellyfish04. Boss introduces new time tracking tool to avoid time manipulation. Backfires on him. I work in a small startup company of around 12 people. It's a very good atmosphere in the office, and everyone pulls their weight and is super motivated. However, our boss likes to micromanage us, even though he has no expertise in any of our fields: marketing, design, accounting. Especially us in marketing and design suffer a lot from that, since he will make changes to our strategies, posts, website, sometimes without telling us, and then gets upset at us when the customer feedback is bad and we aren't reaching our predicted goals. So recently, he told us that the reason he thinks we aren't seeing enough results is because we are manipulating our hours and not actually putting in the work we should. Until then, we each wrote down our hours manually in an Excel sheet, but with the new time tracking tool, he would see how long we were working down to the minute. We also could only log in on our desk PCs and previously approved home office devices, but not mobile, because if you are not at your desk, it's not work. After our initial shock passed and our boss left for the day, our manager called for a meeting and we came up with a plan. We would do as he says, in the most just following the rules way possible. 1, we would not engage in work-related conversations with him unless we are sitting at our desks and are clocked in. 2, any questions by him which are asked after we are clocked out will only be answered once we clock in again the following day. 3, every phone call, text message, or otherwise work-related thing outside of the office would only be answered once there was an option for us to clock in, either next day in office or, for some of us, on our home office device. 4, since we no longer have the option to shift time manually, all work minutes and hours would be clocked exactly when they took place. Side note, in my country, weekends pay better, Sundays have to be paid double, and working after 8 p.m. warrants additional financial benefits by law. Previously, if we needed to post something real quick or had a question, we would just add the weekend hours or late time to the upcoming Monday. Basically, out of goodwill, but no more of that. 5, we would stop any independent activity like posting on social media or writing an email and would send him everything to approve before following through. After about a week, our boss was so fed up with this, he gave us the option to clock in from our mobile devices so he could get a more immediate response to his questions. However, this, of course, led to us clocking in way more frequently since, as I said, he likes to micromanage and is therefore asking a lot of questions. I'm happy to report that as of 2024, we have abolished the system again and regained most of our independence. And even though our boss is still pissy about how we exploited the system, it brought the team closer together and hopefully taught him a lesson. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called One Letter. It says, "Mutinies have a way of bringing the team together." Laugh out loud. Another user down below called Tommy Gun Quartet said, "You didn't exploit the system. Continue logging weekend hours on the weekend. Get paid per your contract." This is completely right, OP. I don't see any reason to stop logging your hours, especially if it's going to get you paid more, and it is within your contract as well. Let them figure it out on their end. If you're going to work, get paid for that work. One other thing to quickly mention in this one is that this really sounded like a big team building exercise. It sounds like your team is a little bit closer knit because of this. Maybe that whole team should get together and say, hey, I'd like to be paid for the work I do when I'm really not on schedule. This story comes to us from A Quiet Borderline, HOTSHOT, and the Hot Wings from Hell. This story comes from my friends Adam and Belle and involves Adam's nephew, who lived in the southwest US at the time. He earned the nickname HOTSHOT as a result of this. Nephew HOTSHOT was a braggart. He always had the loudest motorcycles, the hottest girls, and the highest scores at arcade games. According to Belle and Adam, he was a good kid, but he could have used a lesson in humility. Adam and Belle are visiting HOTSHOT and his family, and they decide to go out for dinner one night. Adam was looking up restaurants in the area and found a local place that advertised the Hot Wings from Hell. At this restaurant, there is a challenge where if you can finish 1 pound, about 10 pieces, of the Hot Wings from Hell, you get a picture and name on the Wall of Fame, a t-shirt that says, "I ate the hot wings from hell and survived," and your meal comped. As you can probably guess, Adam's recommendation they go there was an invitation for HOTSHOT to say, "Oh yeah, those wings are nothing. I can eat the hot wings without breaking a sweat." Adam, figuring this was the opportunity to teach HOTSHOT a lesson, said, "Oh yeah? $50 says you can't." "You're on," HOTSHOT said, and they shook on it. They get settled in the restaurant and the waitress comes to take their order. Chest puffed out with pride, HOTSHOT said, "I'm here for the hot wings challenge." The waitress rolled her eyes and said, "Okay, hot wings for Mr. HOTSHOT." She wrote it on her pad. Just so you know, that comes with all the free milk you want. It's here that HOTSHOT sealed his fate. "I'll have a Bud Light on tap instead, if you don't mind." "May the Lord have mercy on your soul," the waitress said, before shouting to the kitchen, "Jack Bud at table 9 wants the hot wings from hell with a Bud Light. No free milk." Their dinner comes out complete with disposable gloves to prevent capsaicin burns and a waiver. At this point, word has spread that some poor soul is about to complete the Hot Wings from Hell challenge, and a crowd gathers. The manager on duty is there to make sure HOTSHOT actually finishes the wings on his own. After saying, "You better have the camera ready, and I wear a large," HOTSHOT signs the waiver, dons the gloves, and takes his first few bites. "See, this is nothing," he said, finishing 1 wing. Second wing came along, no problem. An important thing about capsaicin is that it sometimes takes a little bit to kick in, something HOTSHOT learned on his 3rd wing. He's sweating up a storm. Tears are rolling down his face, and he looks like a tomato had smashed into his face. Belle, Adam, and the rest of the family are laughing so hard that tears are rolling down their cheeks. The other patrons are chanting, "Eat, eat, eat," but poor HOTSHOT can't even continue. While all this is going on, the waitress has been preparing a tray with a pitcher and a shot glass. When she notices HOTSHOT struggling, she comes over with the tray and asks ever so kindly, "Would you like some milk, sweetie?" HOTSHOT, either too much in pain or too embarrassed, nodded. "Because you didn't want the free milk, it's $5 a shot." He downed 2 whole pitchers of milk, with the waitress counting how many shots he downed. At the end of it all, HOTSHOT was out $300. This included the basket of wings, the shots of milk, and what he owed Adam. Adam said it had to be the most expensive lesson in HOTSHOT's life. He wasn't in such a braggy mood after that. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called ThinkOcelot4025. It says, "A friend of mine used to refer to that level of ridiculous overconfidence as testosterone poisoning." Laugh out loud. Not only did HOTSHOT have no idea what he was getting himself into with those wings, but I'm sure he has no idea what he's going to be in for after those wings. Ring of Fire, anyone? There really is something special about watching somebody who's like a braggart and just full of confidence being put right in their place. It's just beautiful.